Hello, my name is Jarrett Hux. I'm a portrait and wedding photographer based out of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Now, the thing about Myrtle Beach, South Carolina is that it doesn't get very cold here. But once a year, I usually travel skiing to West Virginia. This year, I went to Beech Mountain, North Carolina. This most recent trip, I tried to do as much videography as possible. Now, this is something I don't have much experience with, but I am very capable on a pair of skis, especially in something a little more on the beginner side of the slope. So, I'm going to talk to you about what my rig consists of. First thing, of course, is the camera. Right now, I'm filming on a D600, which is what I normally use, which is a full-frame camera, a little heavier duty, but I really like the ISO range, which is why I use it for video. But I have a stand-in camera right now, which is my D5100. This camera is also great for video because it has a tilt flip screen. It has a variety of lenses that you can use for it. The only thing I don't like about this is that it's very hard to control as far as your ISO range. So when you're trying to do a manual exposure, it's a little harder to do. But in bright sunlight, it's actually really good. On the camera, you'll see that I have a 14mm 2.8 lens. It's actually a 3.1 t-stop. It's a cine lens, D-clicked aperture. It's absolutely wonderful for doing video, especially something on a full-frame camera, because it has almost a fisheye look without the distortion, except for the very edges. It gets a little distorted. This camera is great, and it's what I first used, but this last time that I went, I ended up using the D600. The only thing I don't like about this is that it doesn't shoot at 60 frames a second, which is really kind of needed for sports videography. Next up, I have the rig itself, which is a C-shape, very, very popular as far as video rigs go. I actually saw another guy at Beech Mountain that had this exact same rig with a Canon camera. Now, you can't see it because it has the battery grip on it, but it sits right inside, and I'm able to use it, moving it around and keeping it as steady as possible. Another thing that I have is a loop. Now, this allows me to take a little more careful look at what my focus is on. So if I'm using a 35mm, which is actually on the camera right now, I'm able to keep my focus a little more tack sharp if I'm doing standing and static shots. Last part of the moving rig is the Rode video mic that I'm actually recording with right now. It's the newer version with the Rycote Lyre shock mount. I absolutely love it, and it sits in here perfect. It sits about just this far off. I don't like how far it sits out. I wish it sat back here, which is something that I can do really easily with something else I keep in my bag, which is gaff tape. Now, gaff tape is absolutely wonderful for everything, and I'll give you an example. The other gentleman I saw while I was out there that had the same rig with his DSLR said that he broke his mount, so he had to keep his video mic actually in his backpack. So he didn't really get very good audio while he was out skiing. What he could have done, which is what I would have done, is used a little bit of gaff tape and use the mount to mount it back here. This is also something I would have done if this would have been a problem, like if I was doing a little more of the risky action shots, even though most of what I did was on greens and blues. Very, very simple. Another thing I did was when I didn't want to pull out my DSLR and I was just fiddling around or something for Instagram or Vine, I used my iPhone. Now with my iPhone, I have this generic fisheye lens, which is pretty nice. It worked out extremely well, and also a macro and wide-angle lens on the back. You can see it screws off like that, and you have your macro lens. This was great for video. It has a little bit of a vignette when you're doing photography, but when you're doing video, it crops the mode down so it's sized correctly in your phone. So it allowed me to be able to have video without a vignette at all. Last but not least, that's in my ski rig, is my headphones. Now, I use a pair of Beats Studios. These are great noise-canceling headphones. I received them as a gift from my beautiful wife, and they're absolutely wonderful. I don't use these on the mountain because I don't want to break them, but I use them back in the lodge when I am reviewing footage and being able to hear. If I'm also doing walking around standing stuff, I keep these plugged into my D600 because it allows me to monitor while I'm recording. Now, the last thing I want to mention is skis. I'm about 5'10", and what I normally ski with is a 170. I like a little bit longer of a ski because I like to move a little faster and less of the side-to-side, more of a slalom motion. And I'm able to do that the way I like in a pair of 170s. I'm not a ski expert, I know that, so if you're in comments and you're about to tell me something about skis, please do, because I don't know much. But when I'm videoing, I like to use a 150. And the reason why is because I like to have a shorter ski. That way I'm able to keep up with people, turn around if needed, and I'm a little bit more comfortable without a longer ski in front of me. And that's all I have for you today. If you would, please look in the information below to find the video of some of the footage that I took while I was gone, and also check out a few of my other videos. You can also check out my blog post at www.jarretthux.com, which you'll also find in the information below. Thank you so much for watching.
Huh?